Hey people, I am back at the Revs Institute in Naples, Florida for part 2 of Porsche. This is the second part of a 3-part series diving into some of the Porsche racing legacy. We covered Brumos racing in part 1 last week, so go check it out if you didn't see it. I linked that video in the description. Tune in next week for part 3, which will be the final installment of my Porsche special series, and will highlight my favorite Porsche racing cars of all time. Woo, I can't wait. In the previous episode on the Revs Institute, I gave a brief history of the museum. However, I didn't get into it like I will now. I included a link to the Revs Institute video in the description just in case you missed my coverage of the classic cars in that museum. It's worth the watch, I promise you. This collection at the Revs belongs to Miles Collier, and Mr. Collier's family were racers. In the 1930s, his father and uncle introduced sports car racing in the U.S. and were early members of the Sports Car Club of America. Miles himself developed a love for racing from his family, raced Porsches, and was awarded the inaugural Sports Car Vintage Racing Association Driver of the Year award in 1984. Mr. Collier's car collection began forming in the 80s and the 90s and ultimately became the Revs Institute in 2008. A 1951 356 SL Grumond, a 72 horsepower Porsche that is one of 11 race spec cars built in the Porsche factory in 1950. This car raced in a 2,932-mile rally and finished first in its class and third overall. After that, it set 11 world speed and endurance records and was displayed at the 1951 International Auto Show in Paris. Man, I love the provenance of this car. Mr. Collier acquired the car in 1986 and restored it to its race-winning configuration. This 1953 550 Coupe is a very cool-looking car that demonstrated Porsche was serious about racing and winning. Check out the engine compartment of the 550 that shows the mid-engine configuration. And note the huge rubber band connecting the suspension. That thing is huge! 550 Coupes won on 3 continents: Europe, South America, and North America. That's serious Porsche business in the 1950s. A 1956 550A, a car known as a Spider. Now, spiders can be scary creatures, but we aren't talking about 8-legged arachnoids or a dude who casts webs out of his hands to climb skyscrapers. No, the Spider name was originated in the 1800s to describe horse-drawn carriages that were lightweight and less cumbersome, with a small body and large wheels. When describing a car, we're talking about a vehicle that's lighter, more agile, and sportier, with no roof over the cockpit. Ferrari and Porsche both use the name for some of their cars. Well, getting back to the 550A, Ken Miles, that legendary racing driver who helped Carroll Shelby develop the Ford GT40 and was a subject of the Ford versus Ferrari movie, said that the 550A is the greatest long-distance racer in the world. That's a huge endorsement from a legendary multi-time Le Mans winning Ken Miles. A 1958 Carrera GT Speedster that is the winningest Carrera GT Speedster of all time. 3 SCCA national championships and 67 national SCCA race victories is this car. The driver, Bruce Jennings, also known as King Carrera, said of the car that he called Giant Killer, and of preparing the car, any preparation effort less than 100% would mean a pussycat instead of a tiger. This race-winning and storied 1960 RS60 was driven by the legend himself, Stirling Moss. The British driver was way behind in the 1961 Nürburgring Ring 1000 after the sun came out and dried the track on what was supposed to be a rain-soaked day. Well, the rain returned, the car still had its rain tires on, and Stirling's masterful driving was shining brightly as the sun when he quickly raced to second place and was gaining on the leader. Until the engine gave out. What a disappointment for Moss, Porsche, and the RS60. Picture it, 1960, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Porsche there to race this very car, a 1960 Arboth Carrera GTL. Carlo Arboth was hired to build lightweight bodies for the 356 chassis, and Arboth contracted with a former Italian Bertone designer to create the beautiful body of this car. Once received at the factory, though, Porsche found that they needed to modify the beautiful Italian body in order to race, and did so by enlarging defenders to allow for steering space and punching louvers into the engine cover to cure an overheating issue. This car was the only factory Porsche to finish at Le Mans that year, and it won its class. 1964 Porsche 904 Carrera GTS is such a cool and pretty car that Hot Wheels made toys. Porsche withdrew from Formula One racing in 1962 and once again focused efforts on sports car racing. The 904 was born, and origins of future racing success for Porsche began in earnest. The model won both at Daytona and Sebring in the 60s, and this car won at Sebring with Briggs Cunningham and Lake Underwood driving. Peering under the hood, we find that the 904 is mid-engined. And check out the rear end. What do you see? It looks like a flashlight fastened in there. Well, that's exactly what it is. The car is required to have rear lights during the race, and when the car's lighting failed, the race team fastened a flashlight with a red lens to the car. They never missed a beat on the track. And this 1964 904 Carrera GTS is another beautiful example of the fiberglass-bodied, aluminum-framed car that was built for everyday roads, but killed it on the racetrack too. See, GTS, or the Grand Touring Championship, dictated a 100-unit minimum for any production car that was racing in the series. So Porsche built both race car and street car versions to be sure that they achieved the 100-unit minimum. The 904 is said by a bunch of people to be the most beautiful road car Porsche ever built. I agree. This 1964 911 didn't set well with Porsche. The Porsche factory team showed up at the 1966 24 Hours of Daytona to race their Carrera 6. Hey, but in the pit next door was this production-based, race-prepared 911. Hey, Porsche wasn't ready to race their newest model, the 911, but private owner Jack Ryan was racing it anyway. See, Ryan, a VW dealer, purchased this 911 from the importer, Brumos, in 1964 as a demonstrator. Well, Jack and team started 39th in the 59-car field and worked their way up to lead the 2-liter class. Now Porsche took interest and even offered factory assistance during the race. Ryan went on to win the 2-liter class with this 911, and they finished 16th overall. The only other production-based car ahead of them was Roger Penske's Corvette. This Porsche 911 right here was the first 911 model to win a road race in the world at Daytona. This car paved the way for the legacy of race-winning 911s to come. 1965 Porsche 356C 1600 SC Coupe is a special one here at the Revs. This car was gifted to Mr. Collier, the owner of the museum, when he graduated from school. I love the beautiful blue color, and of course Collier had this car restored to beauty many years after enjoying it as a daily driver. 1967 Porsche 911R that has an interesting story and a racing heritage. Porsche attempted to step into the Italian game of homologation, which is taking a production car, in this case the 911S, and tailor it for sports car racing. With the 911R, Porsche attempted to achieve weight savings by outfitting the car with a fiberglass body, and they made other changes, all to meet the 500-unit racing regulation. Essentially, they wanted the 911R to be qualified as their production car, the 911S. Well, FIA didn't like it and didn't approve the 911R, so the car was not raced in production car racing. By the way, the FIA is the worldwide sanctioning body for racing, essentially the organization that makes rules for sports car racing. Well, anyway, the 911R is such a legendary story that Hot Wheels made toys. This 911R, as you can see by the extra lighting on the hood, was used in rally racing and very successfully, winning multiple races, just not in production racing. It was still good for Porsche. Wins are wins, and a winning car always builds the manufacturer's cred. Hey, Porsche was winning in all kind of racing. And finally, a car model that I reviewed last week, a Porsche 914 6 GT. This one's a 1970 model, while the car at Brumos is a 71. In part 1, we learned about the origins of the 914 and how Brumos used it to win at IMSA. Well, this 914 has racing history as well, in that this car, along with 2 other 914 6 GTs, was a top 3 finisher at Nürburgring in August of 1970. It was an 86-hour event. That means that the 914s that finished 1, 2, 3, and by a wide margin, raced over 18,000 miles during the 86 hours, but only had minimal issues, such as 1 flat tire, 1 broken taillight bulb, a couple of loose window cranks, and 2 blown fuses. That's all. Well, that's a pretty solid effort for a much maligned Volkswagen Porsche 914. Hey, take note that a 914 6 GT with this kind of racing provenance is valued at over $500,000 up to $1 million. Woo! Thank you for joining me, and be sure to tune in next week for Porsche Part 3. God bless you and peace.